Welcome to the Travel Winds podcast. Today, my guest is Lisa Jaroscak with Elegante Wedding and Events. How are you today, Lisa?
I'm good, thanks.
I appreciate the time. It's a
Yeah, of course.
busy time of year for wedding planners.
Yes, definitely. We are in full swing.
I figured with May going into June, July, August, you got busy time.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I head out on my first uh, big international trip for the summer in about a week and a half. So I'm going to Italy for 3 weeks.
See, and that's the part where people go. I'm sure they go, "Oh, poor you."
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because I get the
Or
same
do you need
thing.
an assistant?
Well, that's funny. Like my wife is always available when my Hawaii stores need to see me.
Yes, of course. Yeah, my mother is the same way. Oh, you need an assistant? I'm free.
Exactly. Exactly. How did you get started with the wedding planning?
Well, I mean, it was a pretty organic process that's happened over the past, several years. I've been planning now for about almost 9 years.
Perfect.
And it really started, well, the destination planning started specifically in Italy because I used to live there.
Gotcha.
Um, and I lived there in 2010. And I lived in central Italy. At the time, though, I was actually studying opera performance. So
Oh
that's what
wow.
brought me there originally. And then, I started working in talent booking and then started producing music festivals. And then someone asked if I wanted to do weddings, and I said, sure, why not? And here we are.
You were like, how hard
So,
can that be?
yeah, well, I figured at the time when I was doing all the festival work that it was kind of like a similar vendor pool, just,
Sure.
fancier. so
I-
So yeah, that's how it kind of got started. And then in 2017, I started doing destination weddings
Yeah.
in particular, and started kind of marrying my travel, my love of travel with my skill set from wedding planning, and now we've been planning all over the world for the past, I don't know, 6 years, 5 years.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask you was, did you start? I mean, because obviously you could do Chicago-based weddings or you could do destination-based weddings, and the destination
Yeah,
ones sound
so
a lot more fun.
yeah, I mean, I still do a healthy mix.
Okay.
And actually, a big thing that's happened for me in the past several years is doing a lot more destinations throughout the United States.
Sure.
So uh, even just this year, I've done Cabo. I was in Tulum. I did one in Atlanta. Did one in Malibu. And I'm heading to Italy. So just kind of all over the place.
In a good way. Those are all
Yes,
good
definitely.
destinations.
Definitely. Yeah. So I've found that, it's kind of a similar experience for people of
Yeah.
do they want it to be a multi-day experience. So in their planning process, usually I end up doing like some site visit trips and then the actual uh, wedding itself and being there with all their guests, and I coordinate all their travel and everything.
Oh, I gotcha. You know, it's I wanted to interview you mainly because COVID and the worldwide pandemic affected probably wedding planners more than anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big shift, for
Yeah,
sure. I mean, at the time, I had many weddings over in Europe lined up for 2020,
yeah,
and actually, almost all of those weddings still stay destination, but we switched to U.S. locations.
I gotcha.
So, I mean, and those weddings were going to be, we tended to be on a smaller side, anyways. So, I mean, yes,
So it worked out.
definitely a shift, but all of them got married. So I guess that's the goal.
They decided to go forward anyways.
Yeah. Yep.
Well,
Yep.
like the venue where my wife and I got married is out of business. They closed down because you know.
Yeah. And I feel like there has been a lot of that actually. I feel like I've been fortunate that as their planner, a lot of them, we adjusted, but I just stayed with them for a really long time in their
Yeah,
relationship.
yeah.
So I just had one this past, or 2 weekends ago now in Atlanta, at the Atlanta History Center. And
Oh,
this
cool.
was our third time planning. We
Okay.
they got engaged in 2018. So
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's going to work out after all this time.
It better. My niece got married, and it was we shotgun on the beach, and they said I do, and then we got off. That was it.
Yep.
It was quick. What do you like
Yeah.
about what do you like and dislike, I should say, about having international destinations?
Well, I mean, I love doing the destination weddings, especially, I mean, in Italy, it's definitely like
Yeah.
a passion of mine. Um, and I think, I work with someone locally over there as well.
Oh,
And we
perfect.
have just had the opportunity to create and build these experiences for people that they would never have if they were traveling as like a couple or, just a couple of friends going together.
Yeah.
I would say that kind of one of the biggest challenges that I experience in the planning process with people is they underestimate people's fear of travel
Yeah.
with their guests. And with Elegante, we're a full service, like a concierge service for travel for every single guest that's attending. So, like, I plan this upcoming one. I have, I think, close to 120 people I'm planning their entire European trip for, along with the wedding.
I have a hard enough time with just my wife and I. I can't imagine doing 120 people's. I don't like this. I don't want like that. I would need it like that. Can it be like that? Is it
I feel like over time, though, you kind of figure out what, in general, people are looking for.
okay?
And we work with a great roster of local vendors, and I mean, it's not just me that's planning. So there's a team of us that are putting
Sure.
everything together for everyone.
Are your people all based in Chicago, or do you have people overseas as well?
I have people overseas as well, so
Okay.
just that are more local, so they have a more um, I don't know, accurate temperature on things in those current
Sure.
markets. Like, I love that I can, reach out to some of my local vendors and just say, like, hey, what is it actually like there right now, especially with the COVID things.
Yeah.
I think people ask me a lot of questions about masks, about testing, where can I go? It's like Western Europe is not a third world country. Like,
Right.
they have testing sites just like us, or you can use the online tests or things like that. So I feel like it's been good to have people who are on the ground in those places
Sure.
to be able to give me like an accurate representation, even if I'm not physically there in every place that we're planning.
I think it's interesting with technology. I mean, you can FaceTime the people there, and I mean, it's as real as it gets. It's real time.
Yeah, definitely. And we do a lot of like fam trips
Okay.
too. So we organize it to like work with some local vendors, experience some different, tours and different operations that are out there, so that we can recommend them or kind of figure out who are they the best fit for. Because with like the weddings, we get such a wide variety of
Yeah.
travelers, whether they be like grandparents who have
Never.
really never left the United States
Yeah.
before, to
Yeah.
people who have traveled in Southeast Asia or in Africa, you know what I mean? And anything and everything in between. So, it's familiarizing ourselves with what those operators do is
Sure.
essential for us to be able to recommend to the right person and to see what the tour offers.
Are weddings? Oh, I'm curious. Are weddings cheaper, more affordable overseas, or is everything kind of relatively the same?
So depends where you are,
Okay.
right? I mean, if you're in Paris or Lake Como or London, probably not. Um, but I kind of tell people, at least, Chicago's a pretty high end market for weddings.
Yeah.
So, you know, I feel like you're usually hosting for more than one evening. A lot of times when you're doing a destination wedding. So I feel like it comes out to about the same, but it's just that you're providing 3 days instead.
I got you.
Right. So rather than just the wedding night itself, maybe you have a smaller group, but you're doing 3 days of activities or three, you know, dinners or something like that for all the guests who are there, since they're traveling so far to be there for the wedding.
Get there. Sure. I know you have other interests going on, so I was curious. Like when you travel to Italy or any of these foreign places, even Atlanta, how do you fill up your travel time? Are you are you always working? Are you always, is that where you tend to zen out?
I wouldn't call it zen out.
Okay.
So um, definitely when I travel, I'm mostly working. I always
Yeah.
try to you know allow myself some time to enjoy if I'm going to new place or check out some new restaurants or something like that. But you know, because I travel and plan travel as a career, a lot of times when
Yeah.
I'm there, even if it's a fam trip, familiarizing myself with local vendors. I mean, it is work and it's usually pretty fast paced. So it's like, oh, we're cramming everything into 3 days because that's how
Yeah.
much time we have to knock it out. So I mean, I guess it's like work hard, play hard mentality of while traveling.
I was gonna ask you, on your work trips, do you try to plan in fun time, or is it just let me get in and get out because you've already been to Italy so many times and all that?
It depends on the trip.
Okay.
Um, to be honest, I mean, I think there's certain times like right now when I'm going to execute the weddings, it's much more difficult to
Yeah.
build
Yeah.
in that time because I have other weddings that I'm tending to that are coming up quite quickly. But I think when we go in the off season and we do some of the tastings, walkthroughs, like during the off season
Yeah.
from weddings, there you can build in more relaxation and fun time. And like for example, coming up in June, I have two weddings that are back to back. One's like the 7th through the 10th of June. The other one's the 13th through the 16th. So those days in between, uh, my local colleague and I are going down to Amalfi Coast, and we're going to,
Oh,
you know,
nice.
do some tours and everything. I'm like, it's not that hard. It's not a rough life to do that in the in
Yeah.
between. So it's working, but it's still for fun.
Well, like Hawaii's part of my territory, and so
Hmm.
I'd be I think the first work trip I took, I was that way. I got there, went to work, and then just flew home. And all of a sudden, like, hold on, let me take an extra day here.
Yep.
It's like let me
Yeah,
build that in.
definitely. Well, and I think too with the weddings, um, a lot of the couples kind of lean on us to provide experiences that we've
That
loved,
you've done,
right?
yeah.
So now it's like when we're doing something in Umbria, like I have friends who own wineries there, and we go there and do a group activity there. But it's like I get to see friends of mine, so
Yeah.
it's just kind of building it in, and it's more of a lifestyle.
I was gonna say, I'm trying to think because you sound. I mean, in theory and on paper, I'm sure your friends are like all jealous, right? I mean, like, oh my gosh, you get to go to Italy, you're going to Paris, you're doing all these fun things. I wish I could do that. What what is preventing people from doing that? I mean, where are you a little bit different?
I feel like, I mean, I guess I went for it.
Yeah.
I did in terms of doing it. I would consider myself a pretty entrepreneurial person, and I've always worked for myself, always. Even um, I used to be in the music industry, and I kind of came up on my own there, and just kind of continued on in different event planning avenues, and it just kind of happened over time. And so I
Okay.
think, with the travel side of things too, I think the more you travel, the more savvy you become with travel, right?
I
And the
totally
more
agree.
you work with locals and people who live in that area, you start to become more exposed to less tourist things and more things about their
Authentic.
culture, which
Yeah.
make you just feel more confident in what you're providing to other people, because you see how different that is as you travel more and more.
Where what's the best location you've done so far, and where would you like to plan a wedding or an event?
Okay, so I
Uh-oh.
would say my favorite, and I think hidden gem, is in Puglia. It's in Italy,
Okay.
on the opposite coast of the Amalfi Coast, which is famous. But it's actually incredible. The food is amazing. If you like cheese, like mozzarella and
Nice.
burrata, it's from that region, and amazing wine. And they have all these places called massarias where you can stay and experience, it's called like slow food or slow living.
Right.
And just people don't know about it. It's just, I feel like it's becoming more popular. It's a lot of British people travel there,
Oh,
but
okay.
Americans, many of them haven't heard of it, and so it's still very undiscovered, authentic. The beaches are amazing. Polignano a Mare, which is on that coast. has some of the bluest waters in the world. Red Bull actually does like the big cliff diving thing from
Okay.
Polignano,
No.
and it's all white, kind of like Santorini, but on the coast of Italy. So I feel like that's one of the places where I love to plan because the groups have never been there. Usually there's not
I got
one
you.
person who's been there. So
Yeah.
it's like they have no preconceived notion or, oh, this is what I've done or
I've
anything.
been
And
to
then they're
Venice. I've
just
been to Rome. Or yeah.
totally surprised, like in such a great way that everyone just has such a great time and they're there for it. Um, I would say a location I would really like to do a wedding
Yeah.
is really want to do like small elopement in the Highlands in Scotland, just like in nature. I think that
Yeah.
that would be really cool. So
That would be pretty awesome. Have you done anything in Asia, in Japan, or on
I
that side?
haven't. Um, I've done. I mean, I've done a lot of Indian or fusion Indian weddings
Okay.
all over the place. So I've worked with a lot of those types of vendors from Southeast Asia, but not physically
In there.
there. So many of them. Like I actually had one in Italy where it was like the couple, they were both international. So Italy was kind of the middle
Yeah.
ground point, right? So that made it easier for them. But a lot of times with India, a lot of times it's the visas, right? So it can be quite difficult, and especially lately
I was
with
gonna ask you.
their visa system going on right now. So it's easier for people to plan here, and for those who can get a visa to come here. So a lot of that, is a factor in planning, and I think that if you're a destination planner in different areas of the world, you might specialize in different things based off of where your clients are based.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna have your strengths. I mean, obviously, you living in Italy is a
Yeah,
strength. You know.
for sure, for sure. And we've had the opportunity to be in Greece. We've had the opportunity to be in uh, Belgium and France. Both in Paris and then in countryside. So yeah, I mean, it's been great.
I know my daughter and her boyfriend and some friends are in Greece right now, and I keep getting the videos. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, not too bad.
No, not at all. And the reason I was asking about the prices, you said like Paris and London would be more expensive, but like I know there are more. I mean, the places that my daughter's staying at is affordable
Hmm.
comparatively to here. With ocean views and jacuzzis and all that. So I
Yeah.
mean, I would think some places it would be cheaper or more
Yes,
affordable.
I mean, if you were doing side by side, right, 3 days,
Yeah,
then I mean, or if you're just comparing one day, yeah, it's less. But when you're doing the 3 days,
everything
it
adds up.
adds up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah. I mean, that's
like anything.
yeah. I was gonna say it typically doesn't get cheaper the more days you add.
Well, I tell people, I'm like, if you have 50 people coming to France
Yeah,
and you're feeding them 3 dinners, that's still like paying for 150 people for dinner one night.
exactly.
So, I mean,
And I guess
probably better, but
that would yeah. Wait,
yep.
what do you see coming up for obviously halfway through 2020 the wedding season's you're either at the start or get right at the beginning of it, I would think. But
Yeah,
what do
I
you see
feel
for
like beginning of
2023?
May.
How far out
Yeah,
are you
20.
planning?
My furthest out wedding right now is October 2023. So I
Okay.
would say usually about 18 months. There has been some time with COVID. I found that
Yeah.
in 2020 I was booking more for 2022 than I normally would, just because I feel like people were trying to like wait till kind of post
Yeah. Yeah.
pandemic or whatever they were, estimating. Who knew? But like
Yeah.
I was
Nobody.
booking more like 18 months, 2 years in advance. And I feel like now I'm kind of back to that, you know, somewhere between like 14 and 18 months for those who are full planning.
And do you I'm just curious, do you have like a master calendar of okay, this has to happen by this date for these people and you just look at it every once in a while?
Yeah, so I actually use a project management platform that's
Okay.
specifically made for wedding planning. that I set up for every one of our couples.
Perfect.
And it maps it out on, send out a weekly recap email on Fridays. So all their little tasks are spread out per week. So I I manually assign all of them. So for each couple, and my, you know, my team does the same for their couples. So yeah, it's a pretty
Yeah.
structured process with the couples. Because we always say, like, we don't want people to feel like everything's rushed at the end, or they don't know what's coming up or anything like that. We want it to be that they can click in our platform and see, okay, this is what I'm going to be working on coming up pretty soon, or here's any payments I have coming up. So it's a very it's a more relaxed process because people
Upfront.
know what to
Yeah.
expect. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, because everyone has different wedding experiences, right? I mean, my wife had a different experience from me because she planned this and I planned, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's got to be interesting for you seeing both sides. Have
And
you
I
ever,
feel like,
have,
I have such a mix. I have a mix of, like, maybe parents are super involved. Maybe they're
yeah,
not involved at all. Maybe grandparent is super involved. Maybe it's the groom's parents. Sometimes it's the bride's parents. Sometimes it's both. Sometimes it's international. I mean, it's like, it's all over the place. So I feel like I've worked with so many different
yeah.
dynamics. Um, Nothing surprises me anymore.
I was gonna say, did the term bridezilla ruin it for people? I mean, obviously there are brides that are hard to deal with, but is that the rule of thumb? Like, I mean,
I don't think so. At least maybe
I don't
not
either.
the people. Well, I would say too, though, like, as a wedding planner, like, I'm the person who's helping them plan. Uh, I'm not working with brides who have no one,
Yeah,
and then their families aren't helping them and it's all falling on them, right? Like, that's never the
gotcha.
scenario that I'm in, because I'm literally there to help them and guide them and provide answers and help take stress, right? So, I mean, the thing I experience the most in terms of, like, a negative context, I would say, is
Yeah,
moms and daughters not always seeing eye to eye on what they'd like to do.
yeah.
And then I just listen to both sides.
Like,
So,
everyone calm down.
yep,
We'll figure this
we can
out.
find a compromise.
Yeah, yeah.
It's going to be beautiful. It's
Everyone's
not
gonna be,
worth getting this upset about.
trust me,
So,
I've done this a few times.
yep, yep.
Yeah,
So, but I mean, I don't know. 99% of my couples have been great.
yeah.
I've, and I mean, anyone during the pandemic, I mean, it was stressful.
Oh
It was
man.
frustrating. It was sad. Right.
Yeah,
So I feel like once everyone kind of got over the initial shock of it all,
yeah,
and, everyone navigating it, like, no one knew what they were doing, and no one had written
yeah. I
those
mean,
things into their contract, or, what could they do. And so I feel like once we got that initial hurdle, right,
yeah,
everyone got to a place where they were like, okay, this is what it is.
yeah.
So I
You
feel
can
like
start
once
rescheduling.
once we got there, yeah, exactly. you know Definitely plenty of calls of tears and upsetness, and sometimes you just need to let it out so that you can
Move
figure out
on.
what's next.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Who do you call and cry to?
Well, I would say after all of the weddings, uh not it takes a lot to get me, like, to a crying point. I don't even remember the last time, but yeah, I just absorb. But I would say, vent it out. Definitely. Uh, my mother has been there all 8 years
Yeah, yeah.
listening. Yeah, and now my now boyfriend, he works in the hotel industry, so I
Okay.
feel like we can kind of talk shop a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
bit more and be like, yeah, can you believe that this happened?
And it's like,
So
yes.
exactly, exactly.
It's like, what are you
So
talking about? That happens every day.
yes, yep.
That's cool.
So
I think it's important to have somebody that you
oh
can.
yeah,
If you're the decompressor for so many others, you have to have somebody to decompress to.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's great. Like I said, my boyfriend, he works in the industry,
Yeah,
so I feel like, and we met at like an industry event, couple years ago, and
gotcha.
just like at first we're friends, and then I mean we just kept working together, So then
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like, then you get to know each other really well, and
Hey, what are you doing
now
for
we can,
dinner?
yeah, yeah, and so I feel like it's great because also sometimes I'll have him come and assist me on those destination weddings. That's one of
Yeah,
the the perks.
yep,
And
absolutely.
but my perk is that if I ask him to do something, he'll do it, and he doesn't question what I
Yeah,
ask.
yeah.
So that's good.
You hope.
Yeah, I'm like, you're good labor. So
Exactly. Well,
yeah,
it all helps, right? I mean, it's got to be nice
definitely.
that he's there with you when something
Oh yeah,
stressful
and
happens.
also just like he knows the lingo. He knows,
Yeah,
oh, put the 66-inch round there. Head table needs to be, the
yeah.
8 foot. We can talk
Shop.
the way that I would to anybody
Yeah,
who works in the industry.
that's good lingo shop. I think it's good. It's interesting. I've talked to a lot of business owners. As long it seems like the ones that got in relationships were like from I traveled when I met my wife, so she knew going into
Hmm.
it. Like I mean, she knew from our first talk, like, hey, I'm gone for a week at a time. I'm gone for this.
Yep.
Your boyfriend knew what he was getting into. So,
Well, and he travels just as much.
oh,
So
there you go.
yeah, when I mean, at one point he had worked for a hotel company opening, doing. He was in their openings team,
I
right?
got you.
Like just opening properties, and that's all he was doing. So,
That's a lot of
you
work.
know, part part of it, and like why I say I think it works is because we get it. It's not, it's just part of the part of the industry that we're in, and we love doing it. So,
Sure.
that was a big part of it when we got together, is just like I had been in other relationships where it was a
It's
problem how
yeah, yeah,
much I was gone, how much I would be in Italy for 3 weeks and be 7 hours ahead, and you know
yeah.
they were working there 9 to 5. So I mean, it was just
Yeah,
different approaches of living, even, and like nice being with someone who can, oh well, I can't come for the full 3 weeks, but I'll come for 6 days, and we
yeah,
can go do
yeah,
something in between or something.
yeah.
It's nice to have that, and we make the most of our time when we have it.
Oh, I was gonna say, be, if you're in Italy for 3 weeks, you're missing birthday parties, you're missing anniversaries, you're missing. How do you make up for that?
I don't know. I feel like we always carve time when we need to.
Uh huh.
I mean, it's just there's other, and I think just even in the rest of my family, it's been that way for so long now. They know it's nothing personal. I'm not trying to like miss the party by scheduling this wedding.
Yeah.
It's like I'll never forget. This is almost 4 years ago now. On May 31st, my nephew was born. He was scheduled C-section June 11th, born on
So
May
early.
31st,
Yeah.
and I had a wedding, and I couldn't make it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, and then it's like, well, you always fall right near Memorial
Exactly.
Day weekend. It's like I can make a birthday party. So yeah, I mean, but I
Yeah.
think you make the most of the time when you have it, and when I'm during my off season, I try to specifically spend more time with my family that lives up in the Minneapolis area.
Yeah.
Um, so just keep going colder at that time of year, but
If you're
you do it when you can.
going from Chicago to Minneapolis or Minnesota, yeah,
Yep, yep.
that's when you need family down in Florida. See,
Yeah, I mean, I was living half the year in Miami
there you go.
last year because my boyfriend was opening a hotel in Miami. Now we're in Atlanta, and
Nice.
so I try to stay warmer, but sometimes you have to go to Minnesota in the cold.
I,
But
I I have family in Ohio, so I know the feeling. So, well, hey, well, I
yeah,
appreciate.
when I go up there, I'm like, why do you live here?
No,
No, just like, why do you live here
no,
when
really.
it's so
Why
cold?
do you live here? Why does anybody
So
live there in the winter?
No, I mean it. I mean it.
I know.
Yes.
I had a friends
So,
in Toronto, and they're like, if you hear about the report of a guy going being frozen walking across the street, that'll be me tonight. It was like negative
yep.
31 with the wind chill and all that. I'm like, you can move, right?
You know you're choosing to stay here,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
And you
Yep.
knew it was that cold. It's like
Yep. Yep.
it's not a surprise. It's like people complain about Arizona getting hot in the summer. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to Arizona tomorrow. It's going to be
Oh, that,
105.
yeah, that's not hot though. That's like, when it gets like 150,
Hot for me. It's
117.
50,
Yeah, for you to be cooking.
57 here.
It's 64 where I'm at, so I'm in the same boat. It's like I still got my flannel on. And people
Yep.
go inland, it's like 95 degrees inside. It's like, ugh.
Yep.
I guess, what do you, so you see 2023 being a good year still? You don't see the economy getting, you don't see people getting worried yet?
I mean, for for my current clientele, I would say no.
Okay.
Um, I would say definitely experiencing it more on the vendor side,
Right.
more than on the client side, right? Cost of goods being up, just
Yeah.
inflation in general, things coming in higher, me adjusting how I budget for things because it's just costing more, and how do we accommodate that? Where are we accommodating that? What are we scaling back on? Are we scaling back? I feel like that's impacted the planning process and the vendors more than like if I have clients next year. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
if people are still getting married and spending
Sure.
money on weddings, the answer is yes. It's just that things are shifting right now because of supply, demand, inflation.
I was just saying, for us, I can tell you the supply chain problems are real for us. I mean,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
we're
like flowers.
yeah.
Flowers are unbelievable.
You wouldn't think that though. That's weird.
Many that are grown. And once they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, 2022, more people are getting married in 2022 than ever before.
Yeah.
And so all of those weddings are ordering flowers.
I think they got.
Well,
I think a lot of them got married this weekend here in L.A.
yeah,
We
I
drove
was
around.
just
There's weddings
in
everywhere.
LA for a wedding. Yeah, yeah, I was just in Malibu for a wedding. And we had a lot of flowers. So, yeah,
We just drove. Well, we did drive through Malibu, but we were up in Topanga Canyon and all that, driving through the hills, and there were weddings everywhere. And like there were valet people parking their cars and all that because it's so tough up there. I
yep,
mean,
yep,
hundreds of cars. I'm like, what is going on? My wife's like, weddings. I'm like, oh my
full
god.
swing,
Yeah,
full swing.
and then some.
Yep,
Which is
yeah.
good for you, I suppose.
I mean, I think so. And
Keeps you
and
busy.
honestly, like it's good for the couples because I feel like so many of them have waited such a long time,
Yeah,
longer than they would have,
yeah, yeah,
so they're so excited. And I tell people too, like in my line of work, I'm like, I get to work with people celebrating
yeah,
and like getting together with their friends and family in a beautiful atmosphere. Like it's a pretty joyful industry in
yeah,
general. So
yeah,
I mean it's very rewarding, and like watching people experience that day. It's
yeah,
just I'm honored to be a part of it. And
yeah,
I'm honored at that point to be like in the inner circle, right? At that point,
yeah.
some of these people I've been working with 18 months, 2 years, some of them 3 years, with some of the postponements that have happened. And it's like, feel like we did it by the time it happened.
I I was gonna say it's got to be nice because you are dealing with people at a high. You hope, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. I mean,
but
like,
they'll always remember, and that's kind of
yeah.
cool.
And also just like, especially after you know,
The pandemic, yeah,
the pandemic stuff, it's like all these people getting together. A lot of times we haven't seen each other in a really
that's
long
true.
time.
Yeah,
And it's just like, there's so much happiness around what's happening for the couple and for the guests. It's just,
yeah,
I don't know, it's a pretty profound thing to be a part of.
sure.
And then bring them to Italy for their first time and have them drink wine and eat amazing food, like cherry on top for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's so many worse things you could be doing with your life. I mean, you enjoy
Yeah,
it. You
I
get to
agree. I'm
travel.
like,
You're
people,
dealing with,
yeah, and I mean, just, get to go to amazing places. I
yeah,
mean, most of the time when I'm doing a wedding, we're, privatizing a castle or a winery, or, I mean,
yeah.
experiences that you would never have if you weren't a larger group,
No,
and so it's just, it's incredible.
that's pretty
It's
cool.
like, oh, I'm going from this castle to this castle. Not too bad.
It could be a lot worse.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And I think too, it's nice. There's a lot of people who travel a lot for work that do more cities, like big cities.
yeah,
And I feel like it's really cool that in my industry, I go to the big cities, but I also get to go to the small rural, more nature focused places too. I get a great variety of that, which I think is unique to what I do.
yeah, yeah. Are you the one picking out the sites, or are you listening to them and then you kind of work around it, or how's that work?
I would say, I listen to what they're looking for. Some
Okay.
people walk in with a very clear idea of what they're wanting. Some
Yeah.
people have no idea. Much of it is dictated by guest count.
Right.
So, if you want everyone to stay on site and you're a group of 60 people, you have a more limited pool of locations
Yeah.
than if you're 25 people. So I think that dictates it a lot. And are you more into being on the water, being in the city, being in
In the
the,
countryside, or
rolling hills,
yeah.
and so I feel like I take that, what's the vibe, how many people, and then I help recommend based on the budget, based on the space, and what I think that they'll like. So, I mean, they definitely lean on me for giving them suggestions.
Yeah.
So,
Are there trade shows that you go to?
um, so there's a lot of industry events, I would say
Yeah.
more than trade shows.
Yeah. Sorry.
Um,
It's the term
there's
we
a
use.
big, yeah, I mean, it's less like vendor trade show
Mm-hmm.
style, right? Which I've done before, but more showcase style of vendors. Like there's a big one called Engaged Summit, which I feel like releases a lot of trends and things like that. But
Okay.
then there's some that are more industry specific. Like there's a lot of photography conferences or videography or
Yeah.
like, and I feel like those vendors go to those sorts of conferences. And then for me as a planner, it's more so I go to um, networking events that showcase new spaces that have just been built, or if they're doing like a, I don't know, like a industry network type of thing where they're coming in and showcasing what they do as a company. So I
Right.
see a lot more of that than like the big convention trade show style.
Yeah. Good. I was gonna say it's like in the clothing industry, we have different shows, and so we have our market shows, which are vendor, trade only, and then
Mm-hmm.
we go to a thing called Magic, and it's factories, so you can go talk to people that run the factories from India and from Africa, from East Asia, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's
And I
it's a
feel like
totally
there's a
different
lot of, there's like bridal shows, you know that are out there for brides to
for the
attend,
yeah, yeah,
right? That are out there, and like for me, I don't really participate in a lot of those because
yeah,
we're more boutique, and it's we're not um pumping out you know
yeah.
300 events a year,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So we're so much more like vendor and client referral based, and just
Well, because I wondered, like, I mean, if I had a
more
winery in
niche.
if I had a winery in Saint Ynez, and I wanted to attract wedding planners, you know, it'd be interesting if that they would do something to invite you out, or
Yeah, and
I don't
I
know.
feel like they do, but it's just smaller, right? Like they
Okay.
invite you, let come here, we'll host you, we'll take you around, we'll give you a tour, but it's not going to be like me and 50 other wedding planners.
Oh, okay. Okay,
So
I got you.
it's
Because
a more
that
personal experience,
that's
right? Because
it's
that's what they're wanting it to be.
more travel for you. That's what I was thinking. I'm like,
Yeah,
so that's kind of cool that you would get
yeah,
to potentially go out and see, potential places for weddings or events.
Yeah, and I feel like when I'm already doing a destination wedding, like I try to put some of that those trips and experiences in to what we're doing. You
Yeah.
know, I try to schedule them while I'm already physically there.
Yeah, exactly. I gotcha. Well, cool. What's the best way for my listeners to find out about Elegante Wedding and Events? Is it Facebook
I would
or
say
Instagram?
our Instagram,
Okay.
and it's just at Elegante Weddings and Events,
And I'll
and
make
it's
sure
elegant
Jim
with
put
an
it
E.
in. Elegant with the extra. I gotcha.
Yes, yes,
I'll make sure to put the link into on the website as well, so any of my listeners can
perfect,
just go right over. Well, hey,
perfect.
I appreciate the time. I know you're busy, and it's have a excellent summer and have fun in Italy. Sounds like a
Thank
blast.
you, thank you, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time, Lisa. I appreciate it.
No problem. Bye. Have a great afternoon.
Bye bye. Thanks.